Hello everybody, welcome back to the Bad Bookers podcast. My name is Jack, and today I'm going to have a little review of last night's Raw. I would have done it earlier, but I went to bed as I was working last night, which was alright. I don't usually work Mondays and Tuesday nights, but I had to this week because I've got plans for the weekend. Anyway, we started Monday Night Raw with a lovely little video package for Bruno Sammartino, who sadly passed away last week, and they kept on just showing little bits saying in memory of Bruno Sammartino, which was great because a man of his calibre needs to be remembered all the time if he passed away, just because of how much he did for the business. And you could say, we said it on the podcast, me and Smoothman, if it wasn't for him, there probably wouldn't be professional wrestling. If it wasn't for him, there might not be WWE. So, rest in peace, Bruno Sammartino. And then the next little segment we had was Brock Lesnar coming out. So we had one massive champion in the, when was it, late in the 70s, 80s, was it? And then we had Brock Lesnar, who doesn't show up and gets paid $100,000 for showing up, apparently. It was an okay segment. Obviously, Paul Heyman's doing all the talking. Does anyone else get a bit bored nowadays with Paul Heyman's promos? They all sound a bit. Obviously, Paul Heyman is a great promo worker. He knows how to cut a promo. He's one of the best in the business. But I just feel like his promos are all the same at the moment. 1 second, let me just spin you around. There we go. Yeah, it feels like all his promos are the same, and I don't know, I was a little bit bored for it. There was quite a lot of boos. It was a mixed reaction, like it always is with Brock Lesnar. But then Roman's music hit, and he got a little bit of a pop. To be fair, there was cheers when his music hit. Obviously, it's still mixed reactions, and then it slowly started going towards boos. And then I'm pretty sure he started to forget his lines at the start of the promo. I don't know if that was because people were actually cheering his name, or what. But obviously they're trying to build up this thing for Friday, the Greatest Royal Rumble. I fell asleep during this, so I don't know how I'm going to get through that. It's just been so much wrestling. And then after that, yeah, like I said in my notes, he looks like he forgot his lines. He just stood there looking at Brock like he forgot his lines. We then had Elias come out, and he went to do a concert, but before he could even start, Bobby Roode came out, and they had a little match. So Elias versus Bobby Roode. Elias won through, I don't really know how he won. Bobby Roode was against the ropes, and Elias grabbed his hand or something, and then Bobby Roode seemed to stutter, and then Elias rolled him up and pinned him 1, 2, 3. That's maybe we're getting Elias versus Bobby Roode's little feud now. I mean, Bobby Roode needs to be heel because he's a boring face. We then had the Ascension versus the Leader of Worlds, as they're calling themselves, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. Hardy and Wyatt won. Obviously, they need to. They're going to win the tag titles unless the Bar move back to Raw on Friday. So, yeah, Hardy and Wyatt won. Ascension put up a good show, to be fair. I do hope they get booked better. I said on Twitter last night, I wouldn't mind seeing Ascension in a title match at like a B show pay-per-view, like Night of Champions maybe, or something like that. Yeah, I don't see them winning the tag titles anytime soon. They might do. I'll be really happy if they do, considering how well they were at NXT. It's just a classic NXT to main roster flop, if you will, just because they've been booked. But I can see them in a title match at a pay-per-view. I can't see them winning it soon. They just need to be booked properly. And they can do that because the Raw Tag Team division isn't as strong as SmackDown's now. But after that, we had what's called the Semi and Kevin show. It was really funny. I loved every minute of this. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens even had their, because obviously Miz has gone to SmackDown, so you need a little segment like the Emperor's Asylum or the Miz TV or something like that. They had Kurt Angle as their guest, and they went on him a little bit with Jason Jordan. There was 2 mentions of Jason Jordan this week as well, which he must be due back sometime soon. And they had a little funny segment just laying into Kurt, and then Kurt mentioned the Greatest Royal Rumble and said, "Oh, I'll be in it. Daniel Bryan's going to be in it. Shane McMahon's going to be in it. I think he said Chris Jericho's going to be in it." And you can tell Kevin Owens is just so good because the way he told his story just through his facial expressions was amazing. And then Kurt put them in a match with Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman, which was later on in the night. We then had I thought it was great mini segment with Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Seth Rollins, and then later on again in the night with Finn Balor, where Bo and Curtis Axel were trying to join forces with either Seth or Finn, because obviously the Miz had gone to SmackDown. And I can't remember what they said, but I did laugh. It was funny in my opinion. I really like Bo Dallas. I think he's just so lovable. He's just a doofus, isn't he? We then had another tag team match with Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler versus Titus Worldwide. Drew and Dolph won, obviously. And then they got the mics, and Drew pulled off a very good promo. And Dolph seemed like a little bit of a gas man, where Drew was laying into the locker room saying they were only his pickup checks and all that. But it was a really good promo. We then had Chad Gable and Kurt Angle having a little chat backstage. Another mention of Jason Jordan came up. Chad Gable's now face by the looks of it, and which I don't mind. I think no one really noticed him when he turned heel with Shelton Benjamin. It was a point like, wait, are they heels now? But he's a face now by the looks of it. Jinder Mahal came in to see Kurt Angle as well, and they started pushing each other. Jinder Mahal said that Chad Gable looked like the Nicholas at WrestleMania. And they had a match which Chad Gable won, which I thought, great, Chad Gable won. Decent victory against Jinder Mahal. But the commentators were going on about how much of a shock it was. Now, obviously, it took me out of it a little bit, because we all know Chad Gable's much better than Jinder Mahal. But because Jinder Mahal's been Vince's little side project, or main project, if you will, with this Indian market, that they all played it out like it was a shock, because he's a former WWE champion and he's a former United States champion. But we all know Chad Gable's better than Jinder Mahal, so don't really know. I don't know. We then had the match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman. I fell asleep during this match, I'm not going to lie. Apparently it was one of the better matches of the night. I fell asleep, and I fell asleep during Braun Strowman's entrance, and then I woke up just as Braun Strowman power slams Sami Zayn to win the match. So I can't comment on the match, I haven't watched back yet. But yeah, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are eating more losses, which they can, because I feel like there's the type of characters that can, as long as it doesn't get too much. I do have Kevin Owens to win the Greatest Royal Rumble. I think that's just a guess, but I think he'll be near the top. The other thing I want to say about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn is, during the Sami Kevin show, they came out with Sami Zayn's music. During the match, they came out with Kevin Owens' music. I don't really know what they're doing with their entrances at the moment. It just seems a bit weird. Next thing, we had No Way Jose come out with his little... We're going to call them rosebuds, aren't we? Because they essentially are. He came out and he was going to have a match with Baron Corbin. But Baron Corbin said, look, you ain't on my level. I'm going, pretty much. I can't remember what No Way Jose said, but they started walking back up the ramp, him and his rosebuds. And then Corbin absolutely annihilated him. and it just suits into Corbin's character, doesn't it? Corbin's never going to be a face. He's always going to be that heel that thinks he's better than everyone else. No, a whiny heel as well. And I just hope it's not a feud between Corbin and No Way Jose. That would not benefit either man. I'm still surprised No Way Jose is still on the roster, to be fair. He's been on TV 3 weeks in a row now. I can't remember if Adam Rose got that long of a stint. No one really remembers Adam Rose today. We then had a little video package of Alexa Bliss. It was like a bullying campaign of how, obviously, she's been saying Nia Jax is a bully and all that. And it was meant to be cringeworthy. It was obviously meant to be cringeworthy. I did laugh at occasions. The crowd cheered it, which I thought was a bit weird, but I probably would have cheered it if I was in the crowd. It was cringy. Like I said, it was meant to be cringeworthy. We then had Finn and Seth Balor versus Miztourage, and Finn and Seth won. The problem I've got with this Raw, I'll mention at the end actually, but yeah, Finn and Seth, they beat Miztourage in this pretty straightforward match. It was quite good. It's got Finn and Seth in it, it's always going to be quite good. We then had this big main event to combat last week's main event with the 10-man men's tag. This week it was a 10 women's tag match between the Riot Squad, Alexa Bliss and Mickie James versus Nia Jax, Ember Moon, Natalya, Sasha and Bayley, and it ended on a DQ because Natalya had, was it Ruby Riott? Natalya had Mickie James in a sharpshooter, and then Sarah Logan came in and chop blocked her from behind her leg, and she went down. I don't know if she was actually injured or she was feigning injury. I assume she was feigning injury. And then it just kept on going. Like Natalya rolled out to the outside, and then Mickie James flew through the ropes and kicked her, and then started beating onto her. And then Ronda Rousey came out to look after Natalya for the second week in a row, and then Mickie James hit Ronda Rousey, and then Ronda Rousey put Mickie James in an armbar. So it ended in a DQ, so the heels win. We had nothing on the Sasha and Bayley storyline, so that's going to go on for, well, at least until Backlash, I assume. Maybe there's something next week on Raw. Obviously there's nothing on Friday, because they can't wrestle, can they, the women? Which, whatever WWE does, it seems to be right, doesn't it? Even if it does screw over the women a little bit. My reflections on Raw, it was really weird, because it's obviously a go-home Raw, because of how big they've made this Greatest Royal Rumble out. But there isn't any storylines. They made it out to be a go-home Raw, but the only things we had were Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, which was like a 5-minute segment, if that. It just didn't add anything to it. We've seen it all before. It's the same. And then the only other storyline going into that match, going into any matches, not including the 50-man Royal Rumble, was Finn and Seth teaming up when they're teaming up and acting like proper best buddies as well when they got a match on Friday for the IC title. I wouldn't have minded Finn or Seth turning heel against maybe Finn attacking Seth from behind or something. But they didn't, and they just acted like they didn't have a match and they were actually a tag team. So it was really weird. It was such strange watching at times, in my opinion. It's just because the way I viewed it was a go-home show for the Greatest Royal Rumble because of how big they booked the Greatest Royal Rumble. But it's just because of the Superstar Shake-Up, everything's just messed up at the moment. I just can't wait for this Royal Rumble to go, Backlash to go, and then we can, because Backlash is obviously next week, isn't it? I think it's next Sunday, isn't it? Or the Sunday after that. And just get some storylines involved so it's not just so much of a mess where we have a random match between Chad Gable and Jinder Mahal a random match against Elias and Rude. Granted, they might be the feuds going into after Backlash or before Backlash, I don't know. But they might not be as well. It might just be a random match. So, I don't know. It was an alright Raw. I wouldn't say it was a bad Raw. It was just really strange to watch. And at times, like I said, I fell asleep during the match. That wasn't because it was a bad match. That was mainly because I was tired, but mainly because nothing on Raw really caught my interest, if you will. I did like the Sami and Kevin Owens bits. I did like the Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor bits. But nothing. It was just so weird to watch. But that was it. I just liked how they did the 10 ring start for Bruno Sammartino, and I liked how they kept on mentioning his name over and over again and make sure people celebrated his death, if you will, because he was in his, I think he was 81, wasn't he, when he died, which nowadays is a good it's a good time. Like he's had a good life. We shouldn't be sad about his death. We should be celebrating his life for being one of, if not the greatest wrestling heavyweight champion. But yeah, they're my notes. They can go away. If you like this, please subscribe. Hopefully SmackDown's a little less convoluted, but I can't see it will be. We'll probably just see Nakamura hit AJ in the nuts again. I can't remember any other storylines. Rusev maybe comes out and probably a face this week because he was a heel last week. Don't know. As you can see, happy Rusev thing. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I just can't wait for Backlash and Greatest Royal Rumble to end so we can go into some actual storylines and get invested again. But if you like that, please subscribe, and I shall see you again tomorrow night. I don't know when it'll be up, but it'll be up at some point. See you later.